Russell Wilson is now, if you haven't seen the report, Russell Wilson is being benched for the final 2 games. And the other reports coming out that he's known about this for months.
What allegedly had happened, and there's some reports from Josina Anderson, which we'll go ahead and quote that in just a moment, but that there was some issues with the Broncos organization wanting Russell Wilson to restructure his contract.
The biggest thing with Russell Wilson, the guarantees, it's not his fault, by the way, that this was in the contract, what's going on, right? This was agreed to. And for Russell Wilson, you never know what's going to happen with your career. This is the part that is crazy to me, is that the thought is because of the guarantees and your team's not out of the playoff hunt yet. Yeah, it's a long shot. But if these conversations we're having for months, this team, their failures this year was not all on Russell Wilson. And I think that's the part. Yes, it's clear that Sean Payton does not want Russell Wilson as his quarterback. And Zach, like that press conference, everybody knows he doesn't like Russell Wilson. But if you look at his numbers and you look how Russell Wilson has played, he's been actually a big part of why the team had been playing well over the last 2 months.
He's been playing extremely well. I think he's the reason that they went from 1-5 to in the playoff hunt. And he was honestly probably the main reason. He was looking like Russell Wilson in Seattle. He was making plays with his legs.
And their defense was playing well.
Yeah. The defense was doing what they had hoped would be in the early season. It finally stepped up. Russell was looking good. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, with Sean Payton and Russell, like they're figuring it out. And the whole time we find out they were having this insane drama with his contract. During what was it? They get up to 6 wins straight, 6 straight games.
It was around that. Yeah.
Yeah. 6. Whole time, Russell Wilson knew that they wanted to cut him, which is just more power to him. But it is a very strange topic because both sides are kind of right. Russell Wilson, they did agree to that contract. He doesn't need to, restructure and take less money. But from a GM standpoint, it does make more sense that you're like, we want to move on because it isn't, I think, a big thing that people forget. This isn't Sean Payton's quarterback. Sean Payton didn't go out and get Russell Wilson. This isn't even the Broncos owner's quarterback. All these moves happened before the Broncos' new ownership got involved. So they aren't all very tied down to Russell Wilson, besides the fact that they gave up a crap ton for him. But now that that's all over, I don't think it's clear it's done in Denver for Russell Wilson, but that doesn't mean that he's not playing well. He's a very good quarterback still.
Yeah, and to point before Kevin, I want you to react as well. The contract, he still had his contract that was signed with Seattle, so that was transferred over. Then there was the extension. But regardless of it, if it's under contract, that's not Russell Wilson's fault. That was his choice. From a business standpoint, you're right. If you want to move on from a guy and he's not your answer, well, then that's a whole different story. But the fact that this was happening so early in the season, and the Broncos went on a 5-game winning streak. That was the total for them. But Kevin, just your thoughts right now, because this is such a, people are so polarized on it because of the news coming out that this has been happening for months. Not this was just a decision made this week. And even Russell Wilson's tweeting now, look forward to the next, I trust in God and look forward to the next chapter. Right. And the season's not over. So clearly this has happened.
Yeah. And again, I think it's taken on, I think, a form that even the Broncos didn't expect it to. I don't even know if they expected to get out in the first place. But the Broncos have every right to say, hey, look, approach Russell Wilson and say, we want to do this. We feel like this is going to help us, clear up cap space. But then Russell Wilson declines it. And at that point, again, I don't know what's going on in the Broncos organization, but it felt like they were almost just waiting for something like this to happen for them to say, oh, like what would have happened if they had beaten the Patriots on Sunday night? Like, I think they have they have an 8% chance now to make the playoffs, but it reminds me of what Dallas, the Mavericks did last year, where for people who don't know, the Mavericks still had a shot to make the play-in tournament, but they decided instead of playing their stars to try to get it, they decided to tank for draft position.
Yep.
And I'm not saying the Broncos are tanking because clearly from a financial perspective, even though Russ was playing really well, it just does not feel like it's the right fit there in Denver. But again, for Sean Payton to come out and say this is nothing financial, we trust Jarrett Stidham. I mean, can anybody look me straight in the face and say that they would take Jarrett Stidham right now over the way Russell was, even if Russell was a mediocre to not even great quarterback? He still gives the Broncos the best shot to win. And to me, if I were a fan of the Broncos, looking at them right now, who wants to go and play in Denver right now? If they say, oh, well, if I don't restructure my contract the way that they want me to, does that mean I'm going to get released or I'm going to get cut? So it goes back to what we were saying about the Ravens, where they're loyal to their guys. And that's not like they don't approach their guys for restructure. We see them do it every offseason.
Yeah.
But there's a different level to it where you entrusted so many assets into Russell Wilson. I get it didn't work out. It clearly didn't. The trade, honestly, was not great for either side. There have been some busts on the Seattle side.
Yeah.
But again, you kind of made your bed there. Now you got to lay in it if Russell decides not to do it. I just think the pure concept of a restructure is not the issue. I think how it was handled internally and what it has grown to become is more the issue for me.
Yeah. And just to wrap this up then, early on in the season, by the way, too, they lost the first game of the season to the Raiders at home, right? And then you lose to the Commanders. You have a big lead early on in the game. Then you lose. You have that Hail Mary that almost works out, but you lose to the Commanders. I'm not sitting here saying that Russell Wilson has been playing out of his mind, right? His QBR, if you look at it, is kind of middle of the pack, but his other numbers look good. He's 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. When you look at a guy like Brock Purdy, it's 29 touchdowns to 11. The difference is Brock's QBR is the highest still in the NFL. But Russell Wilson, for all the issues that were going on in Denver, and obviously that 70 burger that the Dolphins put on them was not ideal. There were so many different factors, but if you're going to make a movie, I guess you got to do it. But that does suck. And this is the business. As soon as someone makes a decision on you, you might not like how it's performed, but the organization is going to think one way, and it's not always going to be articulated or put out in a way that's going to make you feel good. And I think this is the scenario that's so strange. And now for the reality is Denver's going to have to look for who their next option is going to be. And Denver right now, if I'm looking at their offense, they're trying to figure out what they're going to be. This isn't a situation where you're going to go, damn, Denver is just a quarterback away right now. You think maybe, but at the same time, you have Cortland Sutton, who's proven his moments. Jerry Jeudy hasn't worked out the way you've hoped for.
He's a jag.
They've had drama with Jerry Jeudy this year too.
Oh, yeah, Steve Smith Sr.
Yeah, and exactly. So that's my point. There's so many other parts of it that are going about. And then also, we're going back to it, they got a chance where things could have really changed, maybe a perspective of it. They go to Detroit and get smacked, a playoff-type team. When they won the NFC North. We'll see what happens, but because we're talking about it, just for fun.
First, real quick, I do want to just bring up, shout out Jarrett Stidham. I don't know what it is, but every time a star quarterback or there's some starting quarterback midseason controversy, I swear Jarrett Stidham is the one who is the backup. I don't know what it is, but like he's been with the Patriots, the Raiders. Like whenever you're like, who are they going to? Like they're benching their quarterback and it's like, oh, Jarrett Stidham. And you're like, I didn't know he was still in the league. So Jarrett Stidham, way to just do your thing. He just always finds a way into the most drama-filled quarterback room and he just gets his moment once a year and it's incredible.
Yeah, he does. And he's had some moments. He's had some moments.
He'll have that preseason run for the Patriots. I'll still remember that the quarterback sneak like 95 yards. Electric. I think he still lives off that. Like that's why he gets contracts. It's incredible.
Hey, you just got to you got to conduct yourself the right way. That can be a whole other different conversation too, by the way, about how you can stay in the league for a while.